We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. You know, when I was Attorney General, I went after price-fixing schemes. And when I am president, it will be a day-one priority to fight to bring down prices. I will take on big corporations that engage in illegal price gouging. I will take on corporate landlords that unfairly raise rents on working.
So my first thought was, I mean, what are you doing now? You're the Vice President of the United States. You preside over the Senate. Like, what are you doing now? That was my first thought. And my second thought was, you know, the issue isn't that the government doesn't do enough. It is that the government does too much. And, you know, her talking about price gouging, it just takes me back to big supermarket, right? Big grocery. Something that Joe Biden had said, oh, it's big supermarket, you know, or big milk or big corn or big something. Everything's always big, but government. I love that they have such a wild perspective, but I don't love what it puts us through. Joining us now on this, and of course, this is none of the economy. One day we're going to have Charles on the show, and it's going to be all great news. Charles Payne, host of Making Money with Charles Payne, weekdays 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox Business. He is my favorite person about money on the TV, and he's now joining us on the phone. Charles, always love talking to you, my friend. I just wanted to get your response to that. I mean, she's the Vice President of the United States. That's not an entirely powerless position.
No, it's not. It's just, oh my God, Dana, I don't even know where to begin with these people. The deflection, the finger pointing, the blame. The buck has never stopped with them. It just never stops with them. There's no introspection. You know, I mean, you were just talking about quote unquote big supermarkets, right? Mm. So the biggest pure supermarket out there is Kroger. You know, you can argue Walmart sells more food, but they sell a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So Kroger reported their earnings for the first quarter of this year. You know what their operating profit was?
What's that?
2.9%. 2.9%. Yeah. Down from 3.3% a year ago.
Wow.
2.9%. Is that the definition of price gouging?
Yeah, that doesn't.
You want to go after them?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, and I get their system. Like they have, you know, they're able to turn over goods and all that stuff. And Walmart's figured out, and Kroger really, they figured out the secret sauce to that. But when I hear Kamala Harris and others talk about this, I just get the idea that they don't understand what everyday families are trying to do by stretching that dollar, because the government's just not going to stop spending money. And when, you know, I hear Biden talk about, well, we're going to spend this and that, we're going to have free this and that, free college, free this, and, you know, Kamala Harris continuing it. I looked at, you know, what the jobs report said last week, Charles. I was looking at the market dive. I don't think that we can withstand that for another 4 years.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think the most important thing that your audience needs to know is that Biden, Harris, they are the authors of this inflation battle. They created this, and they keep stoking it. The $1.9 trillion COVID aid, that was ridiculous. We did not need that. The $1 trillion Inflation Reduction Act, it does not reduce inflation. All of this money, you know, we're giving. You saw last week, Micron. We gave them $8.5 billion in taxpayer money. You know what they gave us in return? They're going to lay off 15,000 people.
Hey,
it's like,
what a trade.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, I just talked about Kroger, right? Kroger has 420,000 employees. Do you really want to hurt Kroger? Because you're only hurting Americans. It's just, I think, and this is one thing I keep saying to everyone, none of this has anything to do with economics, and we have to put that into perspective. That's why it's so illogical.
Are we going to see a rate cut from the Fed, you think, when talking about this? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but because I've been hearing this for a year?
Yeah, I know. The Fed, to me, has really made a huge – they botched this so badly, the Jay Powell Fed. You know, of course, they botched it from the very beginning when they were fighting inflation. Their first rate hike was only 25 basis points. It should have been like 75 basis points, right? It was an emergency. In an emergency, you do emergency things. Well, remember, they thought inflation was transitory. And I think they're making the same sort of mistake here. And the big problem is they keep looking at the economy as the aggregate. They keep saying, when they say the consumer is strong, nothing pisses me off than that. I mean, the consumer is not strong. You add 10 middle-income households with one billionaire, and you crunch the numbers, and you say, well, look at the average. Right? No, that's not how it works in real life. In real life, the consumer is crushed. It's getting hammered. Credit cards keep going up. Delinquencies are going through the roof. We're at 23% interest. We're getting absolutely annihilated. The mortgage report that came out, it comes out weekly, the mortgage applications, and they tried to put a happy face on that. Oh, it's up huge. No, there's two parts of it, refis and purchasing a home. Only 1% move in purchases. People are refinancing their homes. They're getting HELOCs to pay their bills.
Ooh. Talking with our good friend Charles Payne. I want to switch it up and ask you about the VP pick, because I don't want to sound mean, but it's weird that this guy, to me, he's 60-something years old. He doesn't own any property. He has no stocks, Kane and I, my producer, were talking about this on break. Even with your retirement and your savings, you got something. He doesn't have anything like this. When he was reporting in before accepting the nomination, that's really unusual to me. I don't think, Charles, I trust anybody that doesn't have any of that.
Right, because what you're saying is you don't trust people that are trusting the things that we're putting our money into.
Right.
And they won't protect it. They won't protect it. He has no skin in the game. He has no stocks, bonds, crypto, real estate, index funds, mutual funds, no private equity, no retirement accounts, and he had a house, but he sold it. He has nothing. But what can we – this guy's Bernie Sanders. He vacationed in communist China. He loves communist China. And here's what you need to know. While he was governor of Minnesota, during his governorship, the people who've left the state, over 4,000 people making $200,000 a year, 6,000 people making $100,000 a year, 1,000 people making $75,000 a year, 2,000 people making $50,000 a year, almost 1,000 people making $25,000. The only people that have moved into that state they earn $25,000 or less. Think about that. All the productive people in that state are leaving. That's all you need to know. They're running. They're fleeing this guy, and we should actually have a national policy that he does not believe. Kamala Harris and this guy Tim Walz do not believe in capitalism. In fact, I think they want to really destroy capitalism in the name. And again, it's not economic; it's ideology for ideological reasons.
That's a really good point that you just said. Talking with our friend Charles Payne, host of Making Money with Charles Payne, which you can watch on Fox Business every day, all weekdays, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. What you just said there, I think, is one of the big ways in which some people may approach arguing this incorrectly, because it's ideology. It's not economics. It's ideology with them. Right. It is, freedom with your money or no freedom with your money.
They don't like America. They do not. They do not like the Constitution. They still are fighting the wars of yesteryear. They want to fight the wars of slavery, the wars of Jim Crow. They want to go back. It wasn't good enough to tear down all the statues. They want to go back and relitigate our history through policy. And so ironic when their campaign now is that the Republicans want to take you back. Right? Yeah. No, you're the one who keeps going backward. You're the one who keeps talking about things that happened 150 years ago, as if they're going to happen tomorrow. You're the one who keeps scaring the hell out of people. Why? There's nothing else you can sell. And think about a nation that picks their leaders based on fear. Oof. Every time that's really happened throughout history, the outcome has been devastating.
That is such a great point. Talking with our friend Charles Payne. Charles, I know you got to get ready for your show. I got one more question for you. I always appreciate your time. I always think that Republicans do the best when they're disciplined with messaging, and nobody's better on, talking about the economy and money. Good grief. Trump was literally on a show about that. He was, he's on a show about making boardroom decisions and creating businesses and all this stuff. And when he's real disciplined and on point when talking about the economy, that resonates really well, because you got independents out there that are broke, moderates out there that are broke, Democrats that are taking inventory of what they got. And they're like, well, I don't know, maybe going Republican this time around is the best bet. What do they need to do to really drive that point home going into November? Because we're 5 weeks, not even, we're less than 5 weeks away from early voting.
So I've got a friend I've known for 45 years. He's always voted Democrat, and he really, really, to your point, is so upset he's going to vote Republican, or he would like to. And he texts me once a day and says, why is Trump saying these things?
Oh, boy.
So when he gets off message. And yeah, you're right. Trump points out what we all know and feel. I think they need to add a layer of facts on it, because everything he says is going to be shot down or challenged or twisted. For instance, when he says black jobs, they take that and say, oh, he's a racist. No, essentially what he's saying is what a McKinsey report said last year. 45% of black Americans in the private sector work in just 3 industries, where the average pay is $30,000 a year. The best industry is in transportation, where the highest pay is $70,000 a year. What President Trump needs to say is, how come after giving your vote, your heart, your soul, and all your pain and suffering to Democrats for 6 decades, this is where half your population is? I want to change that. He just needs to layer in a little bit of facts to push off don't allow them to change your message. The way he says things, he allows them to interpret it for him and for the public. If he laid it out there just with a little sliver of facts behind it, I think he can reignite the campaign.
Gosh, that needs to be get into his campaign's ear, or we just need to send Charles to the White House. I mean, that's also just cut out the middleman and just send, vote Payne. That maybe Payne 2028. I don't know, Charles Payne. I always.
For it. I'm serious.
I always appreciate you, my friend. You are you are
Thanks,
literally
Dana.
my favorite money program on TV. I actually make a point to listen to you. So I really enjoy it always. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, see you soon. Thanks a lot.